We also now want to get into a story that continues to develop. You will have seen a top executive from the Chinese telecoms company Huawei has been arrested. We spoke a little about it yesterday too. Her name is Meng Wanzhou, and she is the company's CFO's Chief Financial Officer, also daughter of its founder. She was detained at Vancouver Airport. There is a US extradition request. China instead has demanded her release, calling it a human rights violation, the arrest. We have two guests with me in the middle of the newsroom. Kim Gittleson, our business reporter. Hi, Kim.
Hello.
And beside you, Kerry Allen, our China media analyst.
Hey.
Hi, Kerry, as I look at you over my computer screen. Let me start with you, Kim. You've brought your laptop. Why?
I brought my laptop because U.S. markets are tanking once more. The Dow's down over 400 points. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ are both off as well. You know, we thought that maybe we would have seen a bit of a market bounce because obviously we saw that markets tanked in reaction to this news, which broke late Wednesday night here in the U.K., obviously more dayside in the U.S. And on Thursday, it was an absolute bloodbath. Asian markets fell. European markets fell. The FTSE hit its lowest level since 1999. All of this in reaction to this one arrest.
But why?
So there are a lot of things at play. This is quite unprecedented. You know, the U.S. might want to arrest certain executives that it thinks have behaved badly. We saw that a Detroit court, if you remember, a few months ago, issued a warrant for the former Volkswagen CEO. They wanted to arrest him. But typically, countries don't comply with these requests. You know, the U.S. might want something to happen, but it usually can only control what happens within its borders. So the fact that Canada agreed to arrest her is quite surprising, and that's really worried markets because it suggests that this U.S.-China trade war that I think you and I have been talking about for months now is escalating, and it won't end anytime soon.
It will be interesting to see how it plays out. But Kerry, I'm curious, so we're beginning to get some of the lines. Kim telling us there how markets are reacting. What's the reaction been in China?
It's been very, very strong. For the last 2 days, everybody's been gripped by this story in China. Very, very big newspapers, mainstream media, they've been really, really stressing that the US is to blame for this, and they've been using some very, very strong words. One newspaper, Global Times, called this hooliganism. A lot of papers have been saying that that they feel actually that this is all because the US is threatened by China's growing move into 5G technology. Yes. So, and this is a very important time for Huawei. They've been in Shenzhen this week. They did an expo to promote this technology. They've got a new phone being launched soon. So they've been, I mean, they're a big company in China, and they're very, very well known, very respected, very, very huge in China. And the government does like to kind of push how important they are. So for something like this, the way that it's trickled into social media, there's been fierce criticism, and people have almost taken it personally. They've really been kind of saying that, I mean, a lot of the reports I've seen, one paper, Beijing News, it doesn't refer to her as the CFO, it refers to her as Ren Zhengfei's daughter. And the idea that somebody's daughter...
And he is, you want to explain to our listeners?
He's the owner and founder of Huawei. And the idea that this is someone's daughter, there's been a lot of Chinese reports before about people going overseas to the US, being kidnapped or something happening to them. You know, to them, even if they don't know who she is, they're concerned, they're angry, and a lot of comments on Sina Weibo, which people use instead of Facebook or Twitter in the country, have been very, very critical, very, very angry, and lots of scathing comments directed at the US.
Gosh, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, and you touched on another key issue at the heart of this, which is 5G. This is this technology that we're all going to be using in the future so that our refrigerators can talk to our phones and our cars, or that's sort of the way
the Internet
that we
of
talk
Things.
About it. But, you know, there's been a fierce race to be the company that installs this technology around the world. And, you know, the United States, unsurprisingly, was never going to take Huawei's technology. It's always been an issue for the U.S. But Huawei thought that it might be able to gain an inroad in Europe, in the United Kingdom, in Germany. So the fact that this arrest has happened and that this sort of security alliance, the so-called Five Eyes alliance, this is the UK, Canada, Australia, the US, and New Zealand, we've seen that a lot of the intelligence chiefs that are part of this alliance have spoken out against Huawei, suggesting the technology could have Chinese backdoors and as a result might be insecure. That's a big deal.
But what's interesting about it is if they decide it's insecure, don't use the infrastructure, don't take those contracts, but that it ends up in an arrest that is so headline grabbing.
It is, and I mean, again, I want to stress this is unprecedented. Typically, you don't detain someone when they're transiting in an airport in Canada, and I think that's probably why you've seen so much of this reaction in China, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And people have really they've been questioning why the details of this haven't been released yet. Why they don't know why she's been detained, and so they're speculating. They're saying that they think this is the U.S. bullying and using hooliganism, but yeah, they're all waiting at the moment to see what happens next.
And the reason, I mean, we've heard that even President Donald Trump might not have known that this was happening. That's what his security advisor John Bolton said in an interview yesterday with American media, and we suspect it might have something to do with Iranian sanctions, but we don't know. We'll get a sense, obviously, later today at the arraignment in Vancouver. But
come back. Kim Gitelson, Kerry Allen, we'll continue this conversation because I don't think the story is going away. And thanks very much for shedding light for us here on OS.